Hello and welcome to this Eyes of Harmony podcast. On this channel, we talk everything old, new, and upcoming Doctor Who
Hmm.
when we have the time.
Yes.
Now, first,
Occasionally.
yes. So, way back, many centuries ago,
Hmm.
I'm starting Joseph Technicolor Dreamcoat there. We talked about maybe a month or a bit after Series 12 airing. God, that was so long ago now.
Yeah.
We
Jeez.
talked about
Halloween.
the series and our
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings towards it, kind of with some time to reflect on it after airing, because it's quite hard to give a whole thought to something when you're
Hmm.
kind of in it. Like, there's no time to reflect and just to let it simmer. And how does it
Absolutely.
mesh into your brain afterwards and your emotions? Um, so yeah, I think mainly about Flux to start with and leave either the Daleks kind of outside of this,
Yeah,
uh,
I'd agree. Yeah. I'd agree.
because I think that's like while the like
It's
that's
not
like taking
really
the
a
Christmas
flux
specials
story.
into like a thing, right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a continuation after. I do still want to talk about it slightly, like how that sat with me now, but
Hmm.
very separate to Flux. So kind of
Yeah.
everything we're talking about is just from the Halloween apocalypse all the way to the Vanquishers.
Vanquishes.
So that's that.
Yes.
That's the rule set that we have.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, Conrad, do you wanna kick this off?
Sure.
So you're very keen to reflect.
I
So
was, yeah. Well, because I mean, there's only so much you can like think about. Well, I guess only so much time to having to be able to process it. Like only like 3 4 days, or sometimes even on the same day of, as we did sometimes. How you actually feel about something, and particularly having watched the whole series, and now thinking back on how having retroactively had like the later episodes impact the earlier episodes, you can certainly get a much clearer picture. So I guess we'll start from the top, the Halloween apocalypse, as opposed to going backwards from the end.
I
Um.
mean, uh, I think we should go before that, like
Oh
just
really?
the run up to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now they were so secretive, right?
Hmm.
And trailers didn't really show much. Like we didn't
No.
get a trailer for what, 2 weeks before? We didn't even get a launch
Something
date
like that.
for, like, the
Which,
start.
granted, has happened before. Like, I remember very clearly, like, when we were first, like, getting Series 10, we were all like, well, what's happening? Where's the trailer? Just to show, like, lack of confidence and such. It's not necessarily a death nail or anything, because it did kind of work there, but it didn't really work here.
Yeah, and I think like it's funny. I saw so they just released a trailer for the Blu-ray and the DVD box set for Flux,
Yeah.
and it's a really great trailer. And it basically, apart from maybe like two shots that you'd need to change because of spoilers,
Hmm.
like it would have been a perfectly good trailer to like show that one like 2 weeks before and show that first one
Yeah.
couple months before. Like
I mean, we got the Comic Con teaser thingy, I suppose, which didn't really show much beyond.
it's rubbish. Like I'm
Hey,
sorry,
look at this spaceship.
face. They didn't show basically any special
No.
effects. They didn't show any creatures.
Okay, so there was one shot of a rocket flying about,
That
but
that was it.
that was it.
One, yeah. And like we didn't see anything like even just carve an Easter or anything, which is a great makeup design. I'm sorry, seeing a dog creature is not going to spoil anything. Like,
Hmm.
how is that a spoiler for what you're gonna
Yeah.
see?
Oh, because Nate,
Especially
if
if
we,
like it's not gonna be that secretive. But then they showed a lot then in the trailer 2 weeks before. They showed Sontarans, they showed Carvanista.
yeah, it's like, what was the point?
You,
You know.
it's not like you were waiting for people to see it first time in the episode, right?
No.
It's not like that. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's like if they didn't like talk about um No Way Home spoilers. No, they didn't talk about, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield showing up. They just show them in the trailer 2 weeks before. It's like, so what was the point? What was the point in being so secretive?
Yeah.
Like, right? Would have been like.
And the only reason why, like, Dr. Octopus was shown was because, well, Alfred Morena kind of let that slip.
Yeah.
But
Didn't even let it slip. He just openly was
he
like,
just
"Yeah,
said it. Yep.
same guy." So don't ask me how. But yeah. So it. Yeah, so I feel the run up just was handled really badly. Like the amount of content, like you should be driving hype, you should be building up to this thing, teasers and stuff like that. Like why be secretive?
At least let the let the product people know. That's the other issue.
And it's like, okay, what spoilers? They showed all the aliens in the trailer anyway.
More or less.
Apart from Tecton, but just take that scene out when you're showing marketers.
Yeah.
Just be like, right, you can have these scenes and that's it. I think that's what Russell T did with, like, I think for The Stolen Earth, when it went out to press, they took out the regeneration scene. The episode ended early. So they had most of the episode to review, but not the end. Like, right?
Yeah.
But, like, that's still something for people to hype behind. Like, there's enough in that episode for there to be hype, right? And, yeah,
and I mean, granted you don't want another John Sim, but there is a balance.
Yeah. Okay, and then, yeah, that was annoying. But, it's like, okay, so they called it the Halloween Apocalypse. So they knew it was going to air on Halloween.
Yes.
Which must have been planned months and months and months in advance.
Oh,
so why couldn't you just tell us the air date? Why was that so secretive? What did it gain from being secretive?
Just in case ITV were very naughty and decided to place a big show there.
Yeah, do the Halloween Apocalypse, but let's do it in shit. The thing is like, the other ones lined up. Like the other ones, they clearly had dates lining up, right? Like I think even like the Vanquishers or something, they saw it, or maybe it was Survivors of a Flux, one of the others. Kind of the thing is with serialized stories is it all blends together at some point.
Kind of
like,
does.
What happened in where? Only the first, 4 is it quite like do very obviously split, but like Survivors of a Flux, Vanquishers is kind of all blended.
And I guess Village of the Angels too. But...
Yeah, that one's quite but it's like the last two have just kind of blended together in my mind.
Very much so.
What happened in which one? Because they were it wasn't very distinctive between the two. I think the unit kind of story was a big thing of Survivors of a Flux, but what happened to the Doctor and them? I guess that was when they were split. Okay, it's coming back to me now. But yeah, Halloween Apocalypse. I really enjoyed it. On air, it was a good setup.
Same. I mean,
it's still a good episode to me. I still think it's a good setup.
Yeah.
Right. By itself, as an individual project, as a one episode, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed Carvanista. Makeup looks great. Dan's introduction was good. He was likable. What's the point in being alive?
Yeah. If not to make others die.
All the fucking evil dad memes are so fucking great.
I'm good at this.
Yeah. See, and that's why it's weird, right? But Dan has now. It's like, do I like him more just because of the memes that came?
I think for me, yes.
Is it like actually the fan culture around it has actually improved the character, right?
And pretty much. Yeah, sorry.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's actually fan-made stuff has actually kind of solidified the like for this character
it's
more.
True. But also notice how much of that, like, at least a lot of the meme content comes from only those first 2 episodes. I think as well, because like since then, I mean, he got a nice sort of little bit in like Eve, I suppose, but like he was pretty overall in the series. He was pretty inconsequential in retrospect. Like he beyond like his contribution in the War of the Sontarans, he didn't.
He's just
really
sort of there.
Do a whole he was just along for the ride, he doesn't really contribute to the main plot.
Anyway, yeah, I kind of like. It's a tough one because you kind of look back at the classic era,
Mm.
and sometimes the companions just are there. That is,
True.
companions do.
But that's
And they,
usually when they're at the like we criticized them back then, you know, as well. Like when Chameleon was a thing and then disappeared
Oh.
like half a series later, like, you know, it was completely inconsequential and nobody liked that, you know. We
Yeah.
want substantial like, you know.
characterization. Yeah, I think the whole thing. Like, I wrote some good points because there is good in here.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, it looked good, directed well.
Yeah.
I think so. There's really good character creation.
Hmm.
So there's lots of interesting characters like Vinda, like Belle, like Swarm and Azure, Carvanista, Eustachius,
Claire, I guess, yeah.
yeah, Jericho, Claire, like all of them, even like having his parents there, they were fun. But
Yeah.
they just didn't do anything with them. They didn't make anything deep or meaningful.
No.
And then like Belle and Vinda just kind of were then again kind of there. And
Exactly, yeah.
important to the plot, didn't really do anything.
Didn't really contribute anything beyond you know, yeah, just
Being a face in this series.
and having some sort of tie to the actual play, the big like players in it, if you could even really call any of them big players, because it, yeah, I guess so. But yeah, for me, yeah, the Halloween Apocalypse, solid. Yeah, my opinion that, you know, it serves as a bunch of like, because it is just a setup. Like it doesn't really, like, if you watch it standalone, sure, it's, you know, solid in terms of its writing, but like it's kind of not a lot of much. I mean, it is, but it isn't. And
Yeah.
you know, for what the series I thought was going to do, it was like fine and perfectly positioned as it was. You know, to sort of build up to stuff coming later, which would have been fine if they did basically do a very similar thing halfway through the series. Yeah, we'll get to that. But it's all right. You know, I'm not gonna sing its like praises from the rooftops and call it like any sort of
A modern
masterpiece. Yeah, but you know, it served its purpose. It built up the mysteries and introduced like a lot of the setup to episodes to come. So in that regard, it succeeds. I just think, given how the series went, I'm gonna care an awful lot, you know, less about this episode. You know,
Great job setting up all the plot threads and mysteries, and it kept me interested. I loved how the episode ended with the Sontarans just yelling attack, and you're like, what, how are they attacking? What are they attacking? You know, it's a really good setup, and it made me excited for the next week. It was like, I got really excited after that episode for the next episode, which we'll move on to now, War of Sontarans.
Yeah.
Which is really enough, still again, I think a really solid episode. Like these two back to back, I would happily kind of rewatch again.
I still stand by, this is probably my favourite, the Jodie era, like, period. I just think it's one of the very few I can say I, you know, really, really enjoyed from beginning to end. And it is also helped by the fact that it's not so tied into the overarching plot, which means it can stand on its own and just be an episode to be enjoyed. It is, of course, it's entirely, but it's like a self-contained scenario within this bigger event, which is kind of what I hoped the whole series would kind of be, right? It's just solving little pieces of the puzzle rather than, I guess, continuing to force, like, you know, like, not a serialized, you know, and like continuing plot points is necessarily a bad thing. I just, you know, necessarily, you know, certain shows absolutely excel in it. I just don't feel like overall the series did it very well. But yeah, what makes this episode in particular stand out to me is that it doesn't do that, and it's really good. So
yeah, I think the reason why this one is also, you can look more fondly on it, is because the whole series arc isn't great. The serialization doesn't end satisfyingly. spoiler alert,
Hmm.
to my feelings towards it.
Yeah.
Is separate from it. It's really enjoyable, and you can just be like, wow, really nice story in here,
Hmm.
you know, kind of almost separate to the rest. All you really need to know is that they invaded kind of the end of the Halloween apocalypse is all you need to really understand this episode.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And
Yeah.
then, you know,
And now they're in the Crimean War.
right? And it was
We're
cool
meeting Mary
setting,
Seacole.
epic looking visuals. New Sontaran designs are perfect, you
Yeah.
know. Like, the one thing I do love about this era is its update designs for, you know, villains and stuff.
Yeah.
It looks great.
I can
I think
agree.
they introduced Belle in this episode, didn't they?
Yes.
Well, maybe,
Yes,
no,
they
no,
did.
no,
No.
no. It
No.
was one time.
Next one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the next one. Okay, never mind. I'll get to that when I get
Yeah, we'll
to
get to that when they get to it. Not that there are problems with this episode, you know, I think, like, I mean, it's, you know, generally, like I said, solid, and, you know, like I said, I enjoyed it from beginning to end, but, you know, like, other than Mary Seacole, like, the other general was kind of a weakish character, and of course the way they defeat the Sontarans in the end is a bit questionable, but
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the way they beat them. It's just like they all sleep at the same
time. Well, exactly. It's just
I mean,
funny that
some kind of like I can see somewhat, but it's like,
well, strategically that's kind of
Like-
very flawed. In that, wouldn't it be better to have one sleeping at one time, sending like a whole battalion out, and then just
Suppose-
having like a constant?
I think it's their, because they think they're hidden away and they can't find them, that it's okay that they do it like this, and probably it's better for them to do it like this because then when they do attack, they've got a whole army's worth rather than half of them sleeping, half of them not. And it's
True.
only because they think that they're hidden away is why they're doing it. I think if you know they knew that the enemy knew where they were, I think they'd probably handle it differently. So I think you can kind of like. I'm not too.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit questionable, but it certainly doesn't like.
I mainly just don't care about where
Yeah.
it cuts off to. That's the whole. Like, okay, no, I don't mind Dan in the future. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
But Yaz just being at that time, that location with the things is just. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I completely
Okay.
forgot about Yaz in this story.
So like it's like so
He
disconnected.
just kind of
from
wanders around corridors.
talking to weird pyramid things that float.
Yeah, and
Never really
Joseph
got-
Williamson.
And I just said, oh yes, he shows up for a little
Who,
bit.
who I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about, but
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So enjoyed this. Sontarans were completely like the best villain of the series.
oh
Straight
yeah.
up.
Well, they were the main villain of the series in the end, pretty much.
Yeah, which was surprising. I thought, kind of after War of Sontarans, that would be it.
Yeah,
Kind of thing. So that was cool when they showed up again. I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, okay, like that was pretty good. That was a good kind of bluff that you
Yeah.
know you kind of thought they were defeated and that was it. But yeah, like
But they-
yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. I think
yeah,
it added on the mysteries and then set it up.
Hmm.
Okay, so you had even more setup in this episode. So I was like, okay, we're building big here. We're building
Yeah.
the tower high.
yeah.
Now it's like, but you gotta hope that this, you know, the structure is solid, or this is gonna topple.
Yes.
Then we jump to Once Upon a Time.
yes.
We get introduced to Belle, and we
Yeah.
get even more mystery added on top. And then that was at the point where I was like, uh-oh, we're still adding fucking mystery by episode 3. Like,
of a 6-part series.
we had enough in the Halloween apocalypse to last us like probably 13 episodes, let's
Yeah.
be honest. There's a lot in the Halloween apocalypse. And
Absolutely.
added a few more in the War of Sontarans. Okay,
I mean, heck, we haven't even really talked about Vinda, but like, you know,
because it's like just a general character. Like,
yeah,
what
he's,
what does he actually like really change the series? He was just so we could understand who this Grand Serpent was, who was then
basically.
also a pointless villain anyway.
Who-
'Cause you-
And also ended up like having the main confrontations with Kate Stewart rather than Vinda, despite Vinda having a far more personal stake in it almost.
Yeah, and then not even a satisfying end. But we'll get there. So, once upon a time, so we've got them at the kind of thing, and I like, she would go back kind of through what the Doctor's mind, and she's seeing her past as herself, and she has a very cool coat. I like the dark coat. Kind of wish that was the actual.
Yeah, it was a neat coat.
And
we got a tiny cameo from the Roof Doctor.
Yeah.
Just like
a
tight like.
Which is such a shame, and I thought she'd show up in the Vanquishers, and then she doesn't, and it's like, I'm just so like.
It's weird, right?
Right, like it's.
I mean, there's still like a couple of episodes still to have her show
2
up.
episodes left, right? 2 episodes.
And I don't really see her appearing in the Sea Devil one because that doesn't seem to be.
Bluff. I think it's a double bluff. I think they're going to frame it as Sea Devils and actually make it all about another thing. I think it's going to be messy. I sadly.
Please think, no.
I sadly think so. I just have a feeling it's going to be about kind of the Watch and Treasure and kind of, I don't know, something like that. I just get a feeling.
You're wrong. I really hope you're wrong there.
I just have a feeling. Black Eyed Peas. So yeah, it's tough. Once upon a time. Oh no, once upon time.
Yeah.
I always.
Yeah. It's just
so little happens in it that.
They just stand in the room and think about stuff until they're spat out.
And it was a lot about Belle.
Yeah.
And she took out way too many Cybermen very easily.
Yeah.
Kind of, I hate when they do that. It's like.
I mean, granted, Cybermen, I guess, are technically one of the more flimsy, in a way, if you have the right technology to take down. Like, compared to Daleks and some other villains. But, like, they should always be a challenge.
Yeah. Completely takes
when you see like Ryan throw like a thing and take out a whole squad of them, pretty much, and here where like one girl can take down like a whole like.
With like one blaster.
It's like
two is two.
It kind of does negate them and put them down a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like you could have just had any space pirate force. Just make them a general space pirate. Why does it have to be Cybermen? I know the recognizable face, but. It kind of also the more you see them, the kind of lamer it gets.
Yeah, they're just canon for the most part. At least that's kind of how they've mostly been treated since, well, post Ascension of the Cybermen, I suppose.
Bad. But yeah, like, it's a weird one.
Yeah,
kind of just not much happens really.
No, I mean, it's just a bunch of like I said, stuff being shown to you as a potential like setup. When, as I said at the time, this is not what the series needed. Was another episode to set things up, and like most of it doesn't even really pay off. I know some of it is possibly such as the Yaz stuff is probably setting up for stuff after, probably a little bit. I think it was like, while the idea of having the Doctor, somewhat relive what happened with the Swarm, they really should have just kept it to the Roof Doctor once she sort of saw her in the mirror or something, just have her actually be utilised. And it wasn't a bad scene, but like, it was also one that was cut up between like Dan seeing Joseph Williamson shooting at some shit and Vinda doing a thing and it's like I get what this episode was kind of trying to do, but I think in terms of execution and in terms of what we needed for episode 3 in a 6-part series, I think this time could have been spent far better on other stuff. Like it's ultimately just become so much of a non-episode that when I try to think about what exactly went on and what happened, it's just kind of a blur. Like I can see like little bits. Oh, there was a weeping angel that came out of a TV, and
it doesn't feel like a coherent story.
Because it wasn't meant to be.
The
But
more we think about it, the more we're talking about it, the more I realise it's just 5 episodes of setting up,
yeah,
and then 1 episode to conclude it all.
yeah, in a very hurriedly rushed way.
Yeah. So Village of the Angels, because I don't really have much else to say about.
I guess not. No,
like,
either.
it's just like that's where I started to feel a bit.
Yeah. Lots of people like this episode actually, and I mean, I
think by itself, yeah, like there's interesting elements,
Yeah.
but I think ultimately where it goes, like, yeah, it's like when you're trying to you're looking at this, it's all good to take episodes out of context to be like, yes,
of course.
I watched an episode by itself. There's a lot of fun in here. There's a lot of interesting, exciting scenes,
Yeah.
and I think it does have good pacing and it is interesting. But the issue is you have to also look at this as what it was supposed to be, which is a serialized, one big epic story across 6 episodes. That is how it was advertised as.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you've got to look at it like, okay, so we've had 3 episodes of setting up. So really, by Village of the Angels, you really need to kind of just be having answers.
Yeah.
But the thing is at this point, Village of the Angels, we haven't even had answers as to why the Weeping Angels are there.
Yeah.
Right? So we already know that episode 4 is going to have to explain even more.
Yeah.
And as we know, just ends up being even more set up.
And yeah, we do kind of get that explanation as to why the Weeping Angels are there, at least, I guess, in this episode. As you'd hope they would, but...
They're part of the vision, basically.
Yeah, it's just, they're there, they're part of an army. Who do. But, yeah, it's frustrating for me. And, you know, I did say it before, but, like, it has some genuinely really good, like, it has a really great atmosphere at times, and like the horror is generally executed well, and how they used like the Weeping Angels sending people back in time, and you know how they kind of use that to create like additional mysteries, and you know how some of it's done is actually really like exceptional. And as I said, if it had been done like a series or 2 earlier where it wasn't tied to this division arc, I feel like we could have had something quite special here, honestly.
Honestly, I think this is more like series penultimate episode material, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can still introduce Division if, like, this story would have done better in a longer series, right?
Yeah.
I think if introduce Division a little bit, and then they had some adventures in between which weren't connected, like a War of the Sontarans or so on, and then you come back to it, and then you find out, oh, Weeping Angels are part of Division. And then that goes into the series finale, which is just like Doctor versus, you know, in this difficult situation, yada, yada, yada. I still think it could work as a story. The issue is it's like there's so many other questions in this series that have been set up that need answering, like the Flux.
Yeah.
And that, and Azure and Swarm. And so it's just so much. It's so much. And then, like, the, you know, that bloody Davison. What's his name? The evil guy. Who, Unit.
Oh,
the Grand Serpent. That's
the Grand Serpent, yeah.
The Grand Serpent. Like, him on top. Like, it's just too much. Too much.
I mean,
yeah, actually, like, in hindsight, Village of the Angels actually really stands out to me visually.
Yeah.
The characters were actually developed enough so that I really like them, and I mean, it helps that Jericho lasted until the finale.
Yeah,
that did help. But I mean, it's just I think Maxine Orton really helped. But you know, like counting the gravestones is a creepy concept, and it's you know, it works satisfyingly. Yeah. Out in the field, you know, the moon goes behind and they get zapped back in time.
Yeah.
It was cool to see like that they got zapped. You know, that already puts like stakes in it. And this had good stakes.
It did.
Great moments. Great ending to the episode as well. The Doctor turning into a Weeping Angel. Sick visuals. Sick idea. Really, really cool. Yeah. And then they ruin it with a bloody cop-out. Do you remember? Yeah. They just jump randomly to Vinda arriving on the planet and finding the message from Bell. And then
at the end, yeah. Oh. But also, and I think... And again, this was another thing I mentioned before, but the whole... Not just that at the end, but like the fact that they kind of jumped away from the horror atmosphere to have Belle on a completely isolated planet doing some stuff kind of
Oh yeah,
completely
'cause people being sucked up by the
shoots
past.
down the pace of the episode. That's like, and I said this in the original thing, but like that was when the episode kind of lost me. Was like, I can appreciate the good that the episode does after this, but like that initial tension and like engagement I had with the world was sort of like just like taken out back. The moment, you know, we're suddenly like now we're at a planet in a very unhorror like thing, and we're having like things with Belle talking to this guy, and they're doing a cult thing. It's like this. I don't think this should have been here, like
Yeah.
at all. I think that kind of is what like it takes an awful lot away from the atmosphere and pacing that they were building in the episode. And for me, that's kind of was the first strike kind of against what they were doing here. And yeah, you know, I can still appreciate it. Doesn't, I guess, completely like, you know, that's why the episode's bad, because it's not a bad episode. Like, you know, there are, like, even like after that point, there, you know, there's the whole scenes in the house with the angels closing in, followed by, yeah, as you say, kind of a at least a cool idea for a finale, like an end. But
The one thing that did put me out a bit was they brought up every single rule about a weeping
Yeah.
angel, which was, I was like, this is intense. For anyone who hasn't watched Doctor Who, they're throwing a lot of fucking lore. They're basically picking up the lore about the weeping, like, you know, the book that they have in Time of Angels.
Yeah.
And chucking
throwing
it. At the kids, like, hey, you remember this from over 10 years ago?
And I mean, I never even liked most of those like points, just because like
The more you add, the less sinister they become.
it was the same thing with like the Cybermen in Nightmare of Silver. It's like, okay, you can keep throwing, and now I'm ineffective to this, and and I can do this, and suddenly I'm powerful at this. When it's like, it was the simplicity, and like they were already bloody overpowered just by the fact that they could basically, like, the moment you close your eyes, like shoot forward like a tremendous. That was overpowered enough. You honestly didn't need much more. And I mean, I like even the anything that the image of an angel becomes an angel. Like,
How does
I don't hate that one as much, but I still kind of. You know.
Like, I think the TV screen can work. Like that.
Oh yeah,
one is
that was cool.
a
At
drawing,
least it has
like
an
when,
image.
like, yeah, like when it like was ripped up and then it kind of formed together. I was like, how does that?
It was a bit.
How's that
much.
working? Like, yeah.
I was just gonna bring it up, like, just
So I do like when they burned it and then it started like
Yeah.
catching fire. That was pretty cool. To be fair, there was a cool visual. Like,
it was.
like at least what they did with it was cool. Like it was just a lot of lore, I think. So it's like at least they made it decent enough that I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's better than Angels Take Manhattan. Straight.
Yeah, oh yeah, no doubt. It's one of the strongest Weeping Angel episodes since Blink, no doubt. But that's to me also not saying that much.
This one I could rewatch. I think, you know, it's one. I don't know. The more it's tough. I think the issue is actually there is stuff in here which I'd rewatch. Even like Once Upon Time. Yeah, sure, I'd actually rewatch. I think it's just how it all wraps up in the Vanquishers that really just
so it doesn't help.
poor taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but like, what do you think this series was like before, like, they had to cut episodes? Like, what was this series?
I think it would have been this with episodes in between.
Okay.
So I think we wouldn't have had like Bell and Vinda or anything like that. I think they would have been left out. I think Jericho would have existed, and I think, you know, I think it would have been a bit of both kind of thing, like a bit of that, but a bit of like kind of series. And just it's tough. I mean,
you do wonder, because like, I don't know, or would the whole thing have been entirely different? You know, because you don't know how much of like the whole Flux thing and like the whole themes of like everybody sort of being, like, particularly with the whole Bell and Vinda thing with the isolation and the distance between them, is a very COVID era kind of plot point almost.
Yeah.
So it does make you wonder: was this series going to be something completely different? Did they like take elements and little bits of episodes, like say, that was what I kind of thought here was Village of Angels. Like, was that going to be something very different, or like?
As I kind of said earlier, I think the whole division thing was the thing for this series.
Oh yeah,
that was the whole thing that didn't exist. And so then I think maybe Azure and Swarm also, yeah. Also, they never really explained why Azure was human in that first episode.
No,
but
never at all. No, and what the other guy was doing, what that message that came in for them was, they needed to knock it down again. None of that was explained. Why wasn't that just cut?
Weird. But anyway, so yeah, I think the whole division thing, which is why I think Village of Angels would have actually have been the penultimate episode before the finale, which would have come.
Quite possibly. I mean, it depends again on what they would have done with it and what.
Well, they would have had the Tecton thing be the finale kind of thing. I think it depends how far along they'd established it, what they were going to do. But I think they would have just been more just generic episodes.
We know episodes were being written. I don't remember who it was, but somebody put on their resume.
Ed Helms was supposed to be writing one, and then that got cut.
I do wonder what those. I mean, I guess maybe at some point we'll find out exactly what was cut.
It was definitely Ed Helms. I remember that. Ed Heim, even. Ed Heim.
Yeah.
Ed Helms. Oh, I think that's the comedian. Probably. Ed Himes. He wrote the really good "It Takes You Away," and then the really not so great "Orphan 55." He hit both ends of the.
I mean, I'm a little more mixed on "It Takes You Away," but
I rewatched it recently and actually had a really good time. I thought it was really. Actually, I enjoyed Series 11 a lot more on a rewatch, and I think it's because I knew what I was in for, kind of thing. So my bar of expectations
is quite low. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I know what this series is. I know where it does and doesn't deliver. Now, how do I enjoy it? And actually, it was all right. Like, I will say, in some ways, I find it easier to go back and watch series maybe 11 than I do like Series 6. I find Series 6 weirdly hard. I love episodes like The Doctor's Wife. Doctor's Wife beats anything in Series 11, straight up. God Complex and The Girl Who Waited. I just find the series arc in Series 6 really just not interesting at all.
It's not.
I just and
I don't disagree.
I find it hard to get through that series. And then obviously Series 7 is so all over the place. Because obviously Moffat was stressing about the 50th, and I think his whole concentration was on that, which I completely understand, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of pressure to pull it off, and I'm kind of glad he did, because I kind of prefer a mediocre, alright series. I enjoy Basil St. John, Rings of Aquitaine, Cold War, and then after that it's kind of like, Crimson Horror, which I enjoyed, then Name of the Doctor is better on a rewatch after all these years. It's like, sometimes Doctor Who episodes improve when you're not in the moment with it.
Yeah,
when you're just,
it's true.
Watching it, and you can just enjoy it. And I feel like Series 13 will still be possibly the best of this era.
Yeah.
The Chibnall era, Series 13 will still be the best. And if I go back and watch any, it will probably be, if I ever go back and watch a series, I feel like watching Jodie Whittaker. I think I would go back to this series. I think it's got Jodie's best performances. I think it's still got War of the Sontarans, obviously, is one to always look forward to watching, and then Village of the Angels I think I'd look forward to, so I think I could kind of get through. I just don't know. It's one thing, Survivors of the Flux and the Vanquishers
I don't know if I fully. I mean, it's certainly a lot more easily digested given that it's 6 episodes, but I don't know if I can fully agree on this.
Yeah, that's fine. I completely understand other people not. Just personally myself, I just find but I did really kind of when I look back at Series 12, what works about Series 12 is at least if you don't like the series arc, you can watch all the other ones around it. Can You Hear Me? I really enjoyed, and I think you can still watch kind of Ascension without really.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So they wouldn't go
It's called build up to a Cyberman story that we never got. Just do that and then watch Earthshock, and you've got your whole series.
that's it. But yeah, like Survivors of a Flux, and this is
I barely even remember the story, to be honest.
It was mainly just the unit set up, and it was
and you know,
not a division.
Yeah,
and it was just more setup.
Yeah, basically.
What terrified me, and they brought in Kate Stewart,
which it's nice to see her, but ultimately it's like it feels kind of like a wasted.
Yeah, where was her introduction at the start of the series? Why wasn't this part of episode like 1 or at least 2? Like,
what do you think about the speculation that this would have been Torchwood?
I think true, obviously. I mean, someone said to, I think John Barrowman, like, someone said, oh, please, can you make up with the BBC? We need Torchwood back. And he's like, oh, they dumped me. Which leads me to believe that, yeah, he was part of it.
Yeah, plus there was that whole book thing.
Yeah, a thing which was going to set it up. I think it would have been Torchwood. I think it would have made more sense it being Torchwood, seeing as it's darker, and that's kind of more the Grand Serpent's kind of thing. Like, why would Grand Serpent go for such a openly in the government kind of thing? Surely he'd go for more secretive Torchwood Underground-esque thing. Yeah, it just sucks that John Barrowman couldn't do a proper good apology. I think, you know, people could have moved on from it slightly a bit more, but it's just the way it's got about it is the worst.
It should be uncomfortable, but
but he's just gone about it completely the wrong way. Like, it's just burning your bridges completely, you know. Yeah, not great. Bad stuff. And yeah, he had his fucking... Did you see his fucking Joker moment on Twitter when he was at like a Comic-Con?
Yeah, you did send me that, yeah.
Right? Like, fucking terrifying. For those who don't know, there's a video of him being like, oh no, nobody's come to see me. And he pans the camera to the fans who still support him. And then he just like fucking like, honestly, like Joker meltdown kind of moment. Like, they still love me. It's like, okay, who are you trying to like prove? Like, what are you trying to prove here? Like, it's like, yeah, trying to die on your hill, basically.
Yeah, because like clearly they set him up to like do more stuff.
Yeah, because he went to go see Torchwood, right? And it would have made sense, right? He comes back to Torchwood, and now the Grand Serpent runs it. That could have been interesting.
Yeah.
So, what happened in Torchwood while he was gone? So on. Yeah. So,
which is, you know, does make this whole like Kate Stewart thing kind of forced. And I know they've kind of played it off as like, oh, you know, this was always the plan, but like,
well, they were setting unit for something up.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, maybe if they had more episodes, we still could have got something unit, but maybe.
Well, I just feel like this would have worked more instead of having Yaz wandering around corridors. You set up the Grand Serpent in that episode. I know we hadn't had Once Upon a Time yet to see Vinder's past with him, but that would have made it more interesting, right? That we actually saw where the Grand Serpent was now and then saw the past and then be like, oh, okay, so that was before this thing. Why is he on Earth now? Like, it would have just made more sense. Like, you could have set that up earlier in the series. Why do we need all the units set up in like
now?
Episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was this is when I think you can go back to our thing. I'm like, I don't like that they're still setting things up. Like, next week is going to be messy. I hope not, but we were right.
Yeah, and plus there's like, I mean, and that the unit stuff in this episode is probably the most interesting of kind of three different sides, because you've also got whatever Yaz and Dan and Jericho's doing, and then you got the Doctor on in the Division place in between universe.
And then literally there was too many plot threads to do, so they literally split the Doctor into 3.
Oh yeah, well no, just finish off on like Survivor of the Flux, but like, you know, I guess the two episodes kind of meant they just together blend a little bit, but then we got the whole Tech Time reveal followed by her being properly disintegrated. It's like, you should have just, why?
I hope that's a fucking cop out. I hope that Tecton's still alive.
I mean, but if that's the case, then we again got so little time to kind of resolve this now. Is that,
well, the BBC Centenary is feature length, whatever that. So like 70 minutes thing is, they say feature length, and then I think they went like, oh, even the Daleks is feature length, and it was like 60 minutes. I was like, that's. I know that counts as feature. Anything over 40 minutes counts as feature length, but that means every fucking episode of Doctor Who is then feature length. So don't like see what was it? Revolution of the Daleks. That one was like 70 something minutes, wasn't it? I think in length. That was 71 minutes, yeah. So that one I'd go, yeah, that is feature. I think, you know, over an hour by a good amount of time, that's why I go, okay, cool,
Yeah.
feature episode. Like, yeah. But, yeah, we'll see. Like,
Yeah.
it is, yeah, feature length, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
And Yaz and Jericho kind of had a pointless side thing. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is building up to a...
Remember fucking BBC America's fucking social post after series after Survivors of a Fox, which is like how to get rid of a dead Yaz's guide to like getting rid of a dead body. Which is like the most weirdest thing to make. Like, check for a pulse, make sure they're dead, hide them under the bed, throw them overboard. And it's like, oh my god, like this is companion right now, and that like was pretty dark and. It should have maybe lent into that a bit, like, you know, how is Jazz okay with just like covering up a fucking like dead body kind of thing? And yeah, it was such a weird. They deleted the post also, like they started to get like kind of like, what the hell is this on social media? So they took it down. Obviously, people had got screenshots by then.
Yeah,
they had another weird one, I think. Oh yeah, which part of history, which history do you prefer? And they had the fucking map of Russia and then Sontar. I was like, what do you mean which we prefer? That's really kind of like, yeah, we hate Russia kind of like post. I'm not surprised BBC America came up with that one, but Jesus Christ, like it was like really like that's a weird post. And then yeah, the whole Yaz's dead body. I'm like, how did these get approved? Like,
who's running this account?
Like,
yeah.
offhand how to hide a dead body and then throw it overboard. Like, yeah, it was a weird one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the Vanquishers, which was just
a train wreck. Like we were worried about it being a train wreck. You were talking about it. It's just like there's just too much. How on earth are they going to satisfyingly conclude all this?
It's not like this is too intense. Like 10 minutes in, I was like, this is too intense. This
Absolutely.
happening.
Look, it feels like they had 3 scripts. They just took the key scenes out of it and then shoved together. Like,
you know, like, and okay, let's split the Doctor in 3 at the start, and then we're good.
Yeah, it seems like like such a really poor.
Huh? we got Swarm and Azure to deal with, and then the Sontarans just show up for the finale.
Yeah,
and it's like that's even more setup. Like it's even more fucking setup. Like
yep. And the Grand Serpent is just kind of here and isn't even solved by Vinda and Kate Stewart.
Somewhere, and we don't even get the Doctor kind of scream. He just kind of like looks, so he's like, "Oh my god!" and then it just ends, and that's it. And then we have the Lipari, you know, we get the last of Lipari, whole fucking genocide, and we just get a wow, yeah, they killed his whole species. And the Doctor's like, "Right, let's go.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going." Jericho dies, and Dan and Yaz don't even care.
Oh god, I hate like it's so. In Chibnall's era, there's been so many fucking terrible ADRs. Like, it's something I've noticed so much. Like, Series 11 and onwards, so many terrible ADR lines that are just shoved in.
Yeah.
Like, like one being like her just going Jericho as he blows up. It's like. Just make it silent. Just have a silent, powerful moment, you know? Maybe even cut all sound and just have a quiet moment where he peacefully dies almost. Like he's accepted his fate. You could do something creative with that, but you just get to go, Jericho.
Don't have the time, Nick, for a quiet moment. We've got to rush and talk about that chocolate.
Had like really terrible fucking lines as well. Like there was like ones in Series 12 where it's like, I'm not driving the car. It's like, obviously you're not fucking driving the car, Doctor. This was in Spy. and it was like going backwards. And the Doctor has to tell her companions, "I'm not doing anything." Like, obviously, you're not doing anything. Like, why would the companions even think you're doing anything? They've travelled with you for enough time now. Like, it's just like the one issue with the whole of this era is they do tell, not show.
Yeah.
Just expo dump on you what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show it happening. Just believe me when I say it.
Yeah. And then we also have a pointless, like, extra plot, side plot with the whole Vinda and whatever her name is in the armor.
Claire.
No, was that Claire?
Yeah, that's Claire.
Then who was the girl with the angel in her mind?
Oh no, that was Claire.
That was Claire, yeah.
Oh, what was her name? It was forgettable. Maybe that was the actress's name. Helen? Oh god.
No,
Bad. I'm gonna find it.
Okay. But yeah, that was
Diane.
Diane, that was it, yeah. Another, like, pointless addition. Like, what was Diane's point in all this? I guess to make Dan a bit more sad, I guess?
But, right, and it was so pointless because it was like, she was in the passenger form, but Vinda already knew everything about a passenger form because he says to her, "Oh, you'd passed the first thing in passenger form training." So it's like, but okay, so Vinda already knows what's going on in here. So
and Diane already knew how to escape. The fact that she hasn't escaped.
Yeah. Oh god, it's just it's so bad. Too much. Just and then Williamson.
Yeah, pointless. Another pointless addition. Like, what does he do? He's just there, and then he's got sent away.
It's so annoying because it was such a great idea, right? The mole man. And like that's a whole episode in itself. Just, you could have done a really good historical episode with the mole man. Why was he in these caves and what was he doing?
Yeah.
But and then he just shows up throughout the series. You're like, wow, it's going to be really important. And he's kind of just there. And it's like, thanks, Williamson, you've done your bit.
Yeah,
fuck off.
Like,
it's basically like that. The Doctor just turns to him. It's like, right, you're done. Just fuck off, basically.
Yeah. Thanks for the caves, but thanks for the tunnels. You did a good. Now get lost.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
And then they save the day, but not really because the universe is kind of destroyed still. But how
the universe is kind of destroyed, and it wasn't even the Doctor who saved the day. It was the embodiment of time, apparently.
Yeah, Flux. And it was Azure and Storm doing the last Flux event, and it destroys the Daleks and Cybermen on Sontarans because it's like, genocide's okay if I don't hit the switch myself.
But do I have the right?
I'm just gonna trick them. Yeah.
I don't. But.
It's not my fault they tried to invade Earth and I just tricked them into being killed. But I mean, like, thing is, with Daleks and Cybermen, I can kind of get around them, like the Doctor destroying them, because they are kind of emotionless robot, really. Like, they're kind of like those two, but like Sontarans are kind of a bit different to me. Like, they still have like emotions of joy and love, and while they're not good people, I still think they're like, with Sontaran, with Daleks and Cybermen, they are like, they are just emotionless beings, right?
It's still this whole "do I have the right" thing, regardless. Like, that moment in Genesis of Daleks is
which was perfection, but
like, it's fundamental to the kind of the Doctor's thought process in a lot of these situations. And here it's just like, do it.
I think the thing is like, it's not killing off all the Daleks, it's just killing off the ones that were planning to invade Earth, and then I guess, like, because it clearly wasn't all of them, because either of the Daleks happened. But yeah, just the Vanquisher's just a mess, and
it's just I mean, continuing the trend of Chibnall era having awful conclusions, like, all of them have been terrible. He does not know how to end a season. He really doesn't. Like, if there's one thing that's been consistent in his era, is that he has no idea how to satisfyingly finish what he started.
Poor wife.
Oh god.
Dude, you set me up too well there. Sorry, guys. That was
Oh gosh.
okay. I'm sorry. I apologize
So
to
it's
anyone who was listening by that. That was just it was a joke that was set up there. Great, but yeah, I think like it's and this is not something that just Chibnall has done. Moffat has had also a bad run of ending a series poorly, and it just leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Series 9, Series 8, Series 6, and kind of Series 7, but it was setting up the 50th, so with Series 7 you can kind of slightly hide behind that
Yeah.
tiny bit. But yeah, like Series 6, 8, and 9 all have terrible finales. So I'm not just saying this is a Chibnall thing, but Chibnall has done it. Like for me, the 3 times it has been very poor finales, and the issue is it leaves a sour taste in the mouth. Like Series 6, the reason why I find it so hard to get to is because I know I'm not really heading anywhere that's satisfying. I'm not. It's not like watching Series 1 and knowing at the end of a fucking series I'm getting part in of the fucking world. Like, so you know, and that's why you can binge watch that series because you know where you're heading. It's just so fucking epic. Same with like Stolen Earth and Journey's End. I know Journey's End is a bit of a mess, but it was like the Avengers Assemble.
But like,
right?
compared to this, it seems like such a
it's 10 out of 10 compared to Vanquishers. Yeah, and it's just a shame. Like I don't blame the creative team. It's the structure that's the issue, and when the structure's the problem, nothing you can do can really fix that. Like that's the inherent thing. They introduce way too many, and this is the thing. All the plot lines are interesting, but it's just too many of them. It should have been more pick and choose more carefully. What is the story you want to tell here?
Yeah.
What is the inherent thing? And it's division, right?
Yeah.
And okay, division make flux, so you can have the Sontarans and that, but then you should really stop there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's tough. It's like really Azure and Swarm just shouldn't really exist. I really love their design and everything, but them on top of everything else is too much. Like you should have had this flux, this mysterious thing come from somewhere, and it was trying to get to that point. And the Doctor trying to find it ultimately then discovers division. You still could have had this whole thing of the prior adventure and the Doctor going to time as a as a person to stop them. Just maybe even the Grand Serpent. You could have put the Grand Serpent in that position. Like, okay, because the Grand Serpent clearly lives for hundreds of thousands of years. He's just a being that can do that. Why couldn't he have been the one which the Doctor fought in the past? It would have added more like threat, right? They'd met before, but the Doctor, you still could have taken kind of bits and pieces. It's just about laying it down and just going, okay, how messy is this? And you know,
or alternately, like just cut. Like, I mean, if you wanted to keep Swarm with Azure, I mean, in their case, they're at least like on some level connected to Division. So that does kind of tie into overarching plot. Cut the Grand Serpent, cut Vindra and Bell, and you might have had something here, maybe.
Yeah, because they don't really connect to Division at all.
No, not in the slightest.
Grand Serpent, Vindra, and Bell don't connect at all. Everything else does, because obviously Division makes flux, which is why the Sontarans attack. And I'm not really going to complain about the Daleks and Cyberman because they're kind of just there. They don't really.
They're just opportunists. It's fine.
There's not plot time put towards it.
No.
So yeah, I think if you cut those guys, that is exactly what you said. You could have made it all right.
Yeah.
Because there would be more time to establish Swarm.
Or cut like
they look great. I just want to say, like, out of all of the new villains that Jodie's had, they have been the best designed and the best look. And I'm going to remember, like, iconic. They are iconic designs. Like, I will remember those. I can see them clearly in my head. They looked so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, when you see, like, when they do, like, calendars and they have collages of the monsters that they face, they will be on it. Straight up. Like, really great design. I liked how they were acted. I just wish I knew more about them, right? Like, I felt like we just didn't really...
And I never even got why Swarm had, like, 2 different actors, whereas Azure just had, like, the one. Like, if you're gonna change them, change both of them, right?
Yeah.
That was a
weird.
bizarre thing that they did for some reason. And yeah, it's like, I think if you cut, like, I think they got their priorities all wrong. Like, as I said, this finale feels like 3 different scripts, possibly even 4 in some cases. But like, you know, I think they filmed the wrong episodes. Like, why did Once Upon a Time or Survivors of the Flux need as much time as they did over whatever episodes we had in the finale, potentially?
If you remove the whole unit plot thread from Survivors of a Flux, you'd have gained so much screen time to go into
Absolutely.
like.
As I said, Once Upon a Time is ultimately a pretty pointless endeavour too. You know, it doesn't accomplish anything.
It does set up that Division exists, right? That's where they kind of learn.
You could have done that anywhere, though. You know, through any means.
Early on, because then it sets up. Because you need to know about Division, so that when the Weeping Angels are part of Division, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like, in terms of where stuff is placed, it works. But yeah, if you basically removed Vinder and Bell and the Grand Serpent and Kate Stewart, then actually I think it would just be stronger.
Yeah.
You just have more time for the other plot threads.
Absolutely. It's good.
And like Vinder doesn't really go, and the Grand Serpent doesn't really go anywhere.
No.
So it's like, why wasn't that cut?
I know. Like, if you know you've only got 6 episodes, and you know
you want it as kind of small,
focus.
Small and focused as possible.
And like I said, if you're gonna put like an amount of time and have like things enough space to breathe anywhere, you do that in the finale. It's like, it really does feel like maybe he attempted to get a full series going, and then like upon completing episode 5, they'll just sort of like, well, shit, we can't film the rest of it now. What do we do? You know, sort of feeling to the whole thing.
Yeah, though they clearly would have written. It all would have had to have been written before they kind of even went into production.
Exactly.
They reused sets incredibly well. Like this, one thing I will say, this series did feel big. Like it did go across the universe. Yeah. It felt like I enjoyed like its size. At least it felt cosmic. It felt large. The CGI looked brilliant throughout.
But so did Thor: Dark World, and still, you know, ultimately the end product's the end product.
That's multi-million. You know.
Yeah.
That's a much bigger production.
I know, but you know, that's just say in terms of like, even if things look nice and on some technical level it's good in a lot of aspects, you know, ultimately if what you're filming is a mess, it's a mess. You know.
Yeah. But then, yeah, Eve the Daleks, I really enjoyed.
I thought you were gonna.
No, I'm
just okay.
Just going on. I mean, we've kind of like said Flux is just like great start, then just kind of just declines.
Yeah, I mean that was. I mean, yeah, I think you can see that from our initial reactions too. It's just like I was actually happy after War of the Sun Tyrants. Like, and you don't say that very well. Not that I don't swear, but like, you know, you don't see me hyped up for Doctor Who so much anymore until, you know, not really so much since like, you know, since the end of Capaldi's era. So,
I mean, we've got RTD to look forward to. Like,
yeah,
bro, I'm so excited. But yeah, so we've got 3 specials left. I know. Actually, do you want to round up Flux first before we kind of move on?
Yeah, we should finish up. Yeah. Ultimately, for me, like, I know you said this is probably the one that you go and like revisit most.
I'm starting to think Series 12 maybe.
Yeah, I think that too, probably. Like, ultimately, just for me, it's like you have the first 2 episodes where I'd happily rewatch them, but then beyond that, it's like.
That's where it ended. They just randomly did a 2-episode series.
I know, right? Weird. How bizarre.
I wonder if one could do a recap.
Yeah. But listen, like everything else after that is not that there isn't any quality in it. You know, the production values are good, and you know the performances, are generally very solid for the materials they've been given. It just feels like. The production, it just screams to me of a very troubled production, really, and it's just they never quite had the time or budget or whatever it was, and to really actually give proper time to what it was that they wanted to do, and then what they did end up filming was not really what they should have been focusing on. I feel like had I'm not gonna say it would have been better if we'd had 10 episodes necessarily, because, well,
yeah, I gotta
but
it's understandable that they did a shorter series because of COVID. Like, they shot peak COVID times.
Yeah,
so
of course, yeah.
It's they did a great job of it not feeling like it was during COVID, which was I'm super happy about.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I can very much agree there. They did their best with the in some ways, in terms of just getting it down to the amount of episodes it needed to be and all that. I think, like I said, the problem isn't so much the time they had in filming, but rather the time scripting it. It feels like certain aspects of this were very hurriedly thrown together, and whatever ideas or whatever what Chibnall wanted to get across with this series was far more messed up than what it probably would have been otherwise. Again, not saying that it would have necessarily been a masterpiece if it was 10 episodes, because as we've seen from the previous series, he still has a problem with concluding episodes, and there's no guarantee that whatever would have been these other episodes would have necessarily even been good. But it just, it's ultimately a letdown, for me. And I wasn't expecting very much from it to begin with, but it's a letdown for me when I was excited, after War of the Sontarans. I was really excited for what, was
going to come next, yeah.
Because the whole way through I wasn't super into the Division side plot, but if it was just building up small pieces to a puzzle and then having most of it focused on the final week, for the finale to kind of conclude it, then, or something like that, then I would have been way more okay with that. Instead, it feels like most episodes here are just they serve the purpose of building the plot, which in itself might have been fine if it was substantial and what they were building was good, and I don't feel like most of it was, and I don't care about the Division side plot. So ultimately it was just a lot of watching stuff which I was just can we move on now, please? Can I get an episode? Can I get an episode of Doctor Who in my Doctor Who, please? I just ultimately, and particularly with how the finale went, which I was, by the time he got into the 5th episode, I was fully expecting it to kind of get but The Vanquishers was even worse than even I thought it might have been, honestly. And that sells the whole thing, including the Halloween apocalypse, because it's solid at what it does, but
it's a great setup, but then the setup is sadly not satisfying.
I don't even care anymore. So it's so really the only thing of value I got out of this series in retrospect is War of the Sontarans, and that's a darn great episode. But
and Evil Danny.
And Evil Danny.
Oh, I'm good. God, yeah, I think I agree. It'll be interesting in the future, saying 7 years time, when I'm very confused about the Steelbook releasings of the series. Are they doing a series 9? Are they going to redo 10, 11, 12, 13 in the kind of style of what there is? We don't know. It's very terrifying because I kind of got to 8 now. And I'm like, are we going to continue, guys, please? They should do, because they'll make money from it. It'll be ridiculous if they don't. But, yeah, I think this is one that I'd probably binge the most. I prefer Dan to both Graham and Ryan, ultimately just because St. Cole always seemed so uninterested in being there, right? And like when you've got someone like that on screen the whole time, just feeling like they don't care that they're in the show, not really putting in that much of, I think, a great performance half the time.
Yeah.
That it just makes me like, well, if you don't fucking care, I don't care, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just the energy he gives off, and maybe that's like the character he was trying to portray, but like kind of saw him at panels, and it was like he didn't care he was part of such a big franchise. Like I think they asked, "Oh, what was it like?" He was like, "I needed a job, and I got a job." And it's like it's all good being like that,
Yeah.
but it also kind of kills anyone's like interest in doing it. It's like, I mean, it's truthful, I get it, but it's like it just makes it like people don't want like care. If you don't care, like why should other people care, kind of thing. And at least like with Jodie, she acts excited about the show, and you know, so on. So like it shows that she has some interest and love for being in the show. But when you're just so disinterested, I mean, has he actually done anything since?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, with I fully agree on that.
You know,
like I mean, I think the best performance he gave was actually his final performance.
Probably, yeah, when he wanted to go.
Exactly. It's like, oh, the end's here. I'm actually going to try.
Okay, we've got like 61st Street, which comes out this year as a main role. But it'd be interesting to see like kind of what kind of roles does he usually do? Because I just feel like he was completely not really companion energy. Like, if that makes sense. Like, just like dragged the energy down in any scene. It's like he never really showed any wonder. Like, wow, look where I am.
And some deliveries were awful. Like I always like I always bring up the line from the end of like "It Takes You Away," like when he goes like "Granddad." Yeah, I called you. It's just like it's just so flat and it's just
See, and that's why I really like you know, John Bishop.
Yeah,
it's just more energy and more charisma. Like, come on, I know like Graham was that, but the thing is, Graham was so attached to Ryan. It was like,
there's moments. But
I wonder if Ryan will be in the final episode.
Gosh, that'd be another blimmin' element. Like,
well,
that's why I'm worried about that centenary. Is that again, Chibnall doesn't know how to end things, and if he's ending his era, like I'm kind of expecting another train wreck, to be honest.
One thing I don't like about Doctor Who is like tying up, and it was the same thing I don't really like about the 11th Doctor's era, and I think it's because Moffat actually did expect another series with Matt Smith, and then ultimately couldn't get it.
Yeah.
So he was like, shit, I need to wrap up everything in their final story.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks. Now, you could argue that 10th Doctor, but that story thread of he knocks 4 times was brought in during the specials run. Right? Like, that was... And then you only had Waters of Mars, and then End of Time Part 1, Part 2.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't that much of a major multi-series setup. Like, I just get really tired of multi-series setups. It's like, it's not... I don't mind having a series arc and maybe a tail end of that which kind of feeds into later. You know, like the Time War obviously was this kind of big thing, but it was only ever mentioned. The events had happened, you know, past tense. It is done kind of thing. And it was only ever like small knock-on effects because of that thing which we ever saw, which was interesting. And End of Time obviously had the Time War's Return. But that was so well set up over 5 years. But it wasn't like, we're building, they're coming, you know. It wasn't said they are returning until the end of time. Like, it was a self-contained prophecy in that episode. But it's like with this, we've had Division and the Timeless Child since the start of Jodie's era. And it's like, fucking hell, we finally at this point, you know, 5 years later. Like, it just... It makes me feel old, Conrad, and I don't want to feel old. Young.
We were so young when we started this.
I think I was, you know, not in my 20s.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but I enjoyed Even Daleks. That's. I mean, you can watch my early reaction for that. I did enjoy the Daleks.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Solid.
We'll see how Sea Devils is. No, I mean, it could be airing tomorrow. today even. I mean, I don't think they'll tell us until the day of. They'll be like, "What? You missed it? It aired yesterday."
We released it only on iPlayer. Sorry, you all missed it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Like, why is there any point of being secretive on this one? Because, like, we know the Sea Devils are in it. We got the title of the episode, so what does it
We've
matter?
seen them. Their eyes move. We've seen that happen.
It looks fucking cool. Like, I gotta say, redesign is epic.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so back. Like, hell yeah. I just hope it's a good episode.
Same.
But
I mean, that's all we can ever hope for,
I
right?
mean, the Sunday is the 17th of April, so that's my guess that they'll do it on Easter. That would
Okay.
be a smart time to do it.
That would be.
So
But
probably
will
not.
they?
But yeah, and then late 2022. Well, when is the BBC's birthday? I know it's October.
Yeah. But it probably won't be day of. It's probably just the time. They might even do it November 20.
Well, it would be around that week, right?
Or it could be.
Centenary.
Like you said, if they are going to go like and try and fill in all these plot points they've now set up, like I'm very worried for that, especially after this. To be honest,
Well, like they've got so little time left, so it's like either you leave it all for the Centenary, fine, but only so much time. At least it's feature length, so maybe a bit more time to kind of satisfyingly wrap it up.
yeah,
But
you'd hope so. But again, the track record has not been good.
but yeah, 18th of October. I wonder what day that is. Let's look on my calendar. Okay, October 18th is a Tuesday, so it could either be the 16th or it could be the 23rd of October if we go for a Sunday. But, I mean, if you want to celebrate on the birthday, why not just do a Tuesday one?
They could.
Doesn't matter. Like, if you advertise it enough, maybe, people will know that it's on a Tuesday. Like, what does it matter? Half of the audience catches up on iPlayer anyway, so...
A bit less than that sometimes,
put it
but
like
yeah.
And I mean, people are going to tune in anyway. It's a potential regeneration story. We don't know yet. It could be. I mean, rumors are flying about for R2D2. R2D2.
I'll do. Yeah. So,
Interesting. Some are saying it's going to be an open-ended regeneration. It's just going to have Jodie walking off into the distance, and then the next time we see the Doctor, like
New
almost
Doctor.
like a Ninth Doctor change, which I'm somewhat.
I mean, it could do. Like, again, like all we know is that it's outdoors. At
Yeah,
the
not
minute,
in-
more or less, and
Yeah.
that we won't get to see the new Doctor probably because they didn't cast it by the time filming had finished, unless they
Yeah.
do something else with it. But
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to line up as long as you measure, right? And you go, okay, we had this lens, this focus. You can do all the maths and you could line it up so that they could blend easily.
probably,
Like, it's easier to do if they're both on the same day, obviously.
Yeah.
But you can do it easily. With where technology is now,
oh yeah, they could do it, but like you'd have thought that if they were going to go that route, they'd go with the easier route rather than throw in additional complications like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I could see it potentially ending with her just like at the start of regeneration, but like with it actually like the explosion happens and you cut there potentially,
yeah.
or like
I mean,
there's a lot of ways it could go.
I think there will be a scene, just whether it will be a post-regeneration scene or something setting up the 60th. So I think there will be an RTD scene, whether it will just be what we're expecting. I don't know. Maybe it's the victim threat. Maybe it's something else, right? Like, I still think there will be a scene, right? There has to be something. The key thing about any end of an era is it does set up the next, right?
Yeah, like the fans really like having all the gaps in terms of regenerations filled. Hence why they had to go back and do Paul McGann's, and then
I was so happy they did. That was such a fan-pleasing moment.
And I know Russell T will give us it like at some point. It's just whether or not it happens here at the end of the centenary or not.
Yeah, obviously there's the rumors of David Tennant.
Yeah, like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. Like I don't. That's been the thing since like pretty much since Matt Smith was regenerated was people going, "Oh, David Tennant could be again," you know, because he's popular, right? He can come back. It's just I keep hearing that over and over.
Like, it always sounded shit there, but when it's actually Russell T running the show again, it's just slightly different.
Like, I can believe it if he's coming back as, because like there was another rumor where it was like it is the 10th Doctor and he's got Catherine Tate, and it's like, okay, I could believe that. Maybe instead of like immediately casting like a new Doctor, we have a couple of like a episode or maybe even two or whatever with like David Tennant and Catherine Tate. I can see that happening.
Like, when you have the Doctor story, why does it matter where it happens in the timeline?
Exactly.
Like, because you're picking Doctors out of their timeline at any point. So as long as you know where you're picking them out, why do you have to have the current Doctor be the lead runner in it?
Exactly.
Just an anniversary special.
Yeah.
I believe, and like some people are saying it's going to be multiple specials.
Yeah.
I'm really only thinking it's going to be a 60th and a Christmas special.
Possibly.
That's my mind.
I mean, and I could, like I said, if it is multiple specials, I could see like David Tennant potentially doing those, just having like a few extra specials with David Tennant, maybe as some rumors have put forward, Catherine Tate even, and that'd be cool if it was the 10th Doctor and Donna just going on a few extra adventures. I would be so up for that.
I'd be so hyped for that.
I know, right? But like as another 14th Doctor, I'm not. I'll believe that when I see it. I mean, I know they've established a curator, but I don't know.
That's more like just a funny little thing, just a cute little Doctor Who goes on forever kind of thing at the end of the 50th. That's all that is. It's just giving an eventual ending, a potential. Like, you don't even know. It's so open-ended. Like, and that's what I like about it. It's just, it doesn't need answering. It doesn't need anything else. He's just that, and it's cool. But yeah, it would be crazy if it is that. But yeah, I'm interested. Like, some people are saying 3 specials, and there's a source that he's got quite a few things right in the past. Like the Sea Devils returning, they said before it happened. They said about it being 6 episodes before it was announced. They said, I think, 3 specials before it was announced, and some other bits and bobs here. I think Sontaran's returning, they were correct on, and everything. So I don't know. Like, it's kind of a weird source for it to come from. Like, at least Warney's got a lot right, but
like,
it's whether it's the 10th Doctor or it's whether it's the 14th Doctor.
I mean, I don't think that's, even if like somebody gets a lot of things right, that's necessarily a confirmation. Like, having been around like enough fandoms, people can have correct information and then throw in some bullshit somewhere along the line. That's just sometimes what they do, regardless of whether or not.
There must be some truth. I think David Tennant definitely is going to be in the 60th. Yeah, he's a fan of the show, right? Like, he's been doing so many big finishes. It's not like he's going to be like, you know what? Nah, don't want an on-screen appearance. I'll do all the big.
If Russell T comes knocking, he's going to do it. No doubt. Right?
You don't turn Russell T Davies down unless you're Christopher Eccleston. Yeah. But you don't turn Russell T Davies down. And like, he'll definitely be back. It'll be whether Matt Smith comes back. I don't know if Capaldi would. Maybe. It's Russell T. Right, like it's like his name is such pull behind it that it's like, I'm sure Capaldi would come back and do like 2 scenes. Like, it's like you don't always need. You can have a big multi-Doctor story and not have every Doctor be such a huge integral part.
No,
just a little.
I mean, the Doctor kind of did that.
Yeah, but maybe a bit more like a Doctor meets a Doctor and they kind of just part ways, and that's all you see of the 12th Doctor was that small interaction of the 10th talking to the 12th, needing something like that, and move on, kind of something like that.
Possibly.
Like, there's stuff you can do, right? Like Time Crash, look how cute that scene is, and you can explain the aging. I mean, Moffat explained it perfectly about the time differential,
Yeah.
It's really...
That's what you need.
Oh, yeah. Time Crash is so sweet. And adorable. And the mix of modern Who music and classic Who music, it's so good. Like, I miss those. Like, why can't we? Like,
Actually, there were 1 or 2 rumors, because like the whole like the bringing the band back together thing with the current like behind the scenes staff, and like currently rumors are saying Murray Gold might be amongst them. So
I mean, look how many have come back already.
yeah,
Right? Like, was it Phil?
I mean Murray Gold works with Russell T on most of his projects, I think.
Yeah.
So
And I wonder if like Murray Gold would have continued had he been asked for Series 11, right?
maybe. I mean, it did feel like always that like, particularly with Twice Upon a Time, like that he was just that was like a goodbye kind of score,
He would have
best of
known he
hits.
was leaving by that point.
But yeah, I mean,
He would-
true.
So
I mean,
it's
maybe he
like-
just needed a break. You know, I can see that when you work on the same show for. I mean,
the thing is, nothing in between. Like, this is the thing. Like, it only takes. It's not like a whole year job doing
No.
all that he did. You know, it's maybe like 3-4 months for sure. But you could write stuff early. But I know he did like Hoodwink 2 was one that he worked on. He's done other stuff in between.
yeah,
So it's not like he was only ever doing that. It was just
True.
a solid paycheck. But I mean, he clearly loved it, or he wouldn't have done it for so long.
that's very true.
And he wouldn't have stuck with Moffat for so long
Hmm.
if that were the case. But he did. He stuck for 4 Doctors,
Yeah,
5 if you count the War Doctor. You know, like
that's true.
yeah,
6 if you want to count Paul McGann.
yeah, yeah. That music, his music was it wasn't an original track.
Yeah,
they-
true.
Yeah, 10. No, that was the 11th Doctor. I can't remember what they used for 8th Doctor, but it was one of the ones from
Yeah,
Series
Yeah.
6, I think. No, 7. But yeah, so I would love if Murray Gold was back. I miss the bombastic, orchestral, over the top music. I miss it. Like, I know
Yeah.
some people are big fans of the current music. Akinola stuff is.
yeah. And I mean, granted, I think it was a bit better. It was certainly better last series. It's just like, for the most part, it's kind of just hid in the background and hasn't really.
Something I miss with like even like Spider-Man, right? Like they only really like they kind of had the choir at the very end when he was swinging through New York with the new
Yeah.
with like Tom Holland's theme. But I just miss that kind of the choir, Tobey Maguire's choir, right? Like that was so awesome. And it's like it was the same for like the Doctor's theme, right? When you listen to like the Doctor's Series 4 theme, it's so bloody
Yeah.
powerful, right? And it's like
Absolutely.
it's never had anything powerful. There's good music, but just not anything that's like The Clouds Will Pass or Varlane de Chem, you know, like where point like I don't think anyone could point out like 5 tracks and like tell me really great key moments compared to like Murray Gold. I know like 10 Murray Gold tracks across his era, and I know many more than that. Like I can run them. I can like visually see them in action with the action. But I think the only ones really I know from this era is kind of the Bond bit,
Yeah.
and like Me and My Mates is a
Yeah.
decent track.
And the Doctor's theme.
I still forget it, man.
Yeah.
I've gone over it so many times that I still forget the track. So yeah, I mean, if the band's coming back together, I kind of see it happening. Clearly, there's been issues with the production behind scenes. You don't go back to Bad Wolf. I mean, they're losing 40 million in revenue or something.
Yeah, even the Daleks did bad. Like, it was the lowest of the whole series, and that's supposed to be like the big like holiday special.
I mean, I don't know why they keep doing New Year.
No idea. No,
Stupid.
I really. I don't get it.
Oh, the thing that annoys me though is when people are like, "Oh, look how bad Marvel did, like on Disney Plus, and like Doctor Who's getting bigger numbers than that." I'm like, "There's pirating, right? Pirating fucking exists." And WandaVision was the most pirated show last year.
Yeah.
And Black Widow, I think, was the most pirated film last year. Clearly, people are watching them because you see how many people on Twitter are talking about WandaVision.
Yeah.
There was more than fucking 4.3 million talking about WandaVision on Twitter every single week, right? It's like Doctor Who is free to access. You just need iPlayer. You can even lie.
And the license fee.
You can easily lie and get through that. I know people who have, and it's never come back and bit them. I pay for my license, by the way.
Yeah, so do I.
But it's not hard to pirate, right? But like, because you don't need to. So those viewing figures go towards the show. Marvel, Disney stuff, if it's pirated on, the many sites that exist, which I'm not going to say their names, 'cause I'm not going to promote piracy, but how much did I think Black Widow lose? I think it was 70 million or something, or it was maybe even more than that. It was a lot that it lost. It lost a shit ton of money due to piracy. And it just really annoys me when people are trying to claim that Doctor Who's bigger than fucking Marvel. I'm sorry.
No.
People are just pirating it. People are, sitting watching in groups, potentially. I know group watching's taken into account for Doctor Who and stuff, but I'm sorry, Doctor Who is not bigger than Marvel. I love the show, but it has, viewing figures have dropped, and I think it's foolish for people to, to celebrate that it's doing better than Marvel when piracy,
especially given the height.
There's a piracy. I've looked on every Twitter. I'm like, it is missing out such a key detail of people just watching it illegally.
Yeah,
and that's a huge thing. It's massive. So I think Kick-Ass 2 was the most pirated thing, and you look at how it did at the box office, terrible, but so many people actually watched it. They just watched free versions.
Yeah.
And it's what happened. But nobody's watching Doctor Who for free, so all those viewing figures are probably the max, right? But you look at WandaVision, and it's it's probably getting more.
People don't want to keep paying for other subscription services.
People can't. People are paying for one, and and because it's streaming, you get high quality piracy because people just record their screens, right?
Yeah.
It's not the cinema and it's shaky footage. It's literally you can pirate high quality footage of it straight a fucking way.
Yeah.
So that's just something that annoys me. It's it's a dumb comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I mean, particularly since the beginning of Jodie's era, it was started off
amazing.
That whole first series actually. I know it did slowly decline, but it was all consistently
high.
Yeah, maybe not quite David Tennant levels for the most part, but it was a leap up from Peter Capaldi's.
You do want to be around
below it.
You do want to be around the 6, 7, right? That is good. That is good, incredibly good. But I mean, we're not even hitting 6s at the minute.
We're not even hitting 4s. Well, not even hitting 5s. Sorry.
Yeah, 5s. Yeah, since War of Centaurans hit 5 and it just dips because it was too confusing for general audiences, I think, as well. Flux, it was just too much. It was too much to take in.
Yeah.
I mean, I was struggling, and my mum struggled definitely. Fish was just there for the ride, and but I think if I asked her now, explain me the plot, I don't think she'd be able to. And I think the thing about Flux which really annoys me is then you have a whole video that's made afterwards, put on social media, which just has Chris Chibnall explain the whole plot. So I'm like, if you had to make this, it clearly shows that you do not believe that the plot is strong enough. Did we ever, for any of the other series, have a person just sum up the whole series? No, we haven't, and I think that pretty much sums up they did it because I think they were like, shit, this is a bit confusing, but there's nothing we can do now.
The scripts are written, it's been filmed.
It happens. Well, it happens. You've got the edited thing, and it's there's only so much we can tweak and change in this time span. That's you're gonna have to ride the wave that you've chosen to surf on at some point, and there's not much you can do. That you do get duds. At the end of the day, it just is what it is. It's content creation. You're not always going to hit it.
It's always a risk, and you never know how.
Maybe he'll try something completely different.
Yeah,
and it'll be likes. But I think at least he's going to have characters with depth and aren't just there to be hey, look at me, I have this problem, and that is my character. I am a character who is struggling with this. Right?
Again, I think the only character they did try a little bit more with in that regard was Yaz. They did have that whole
free seasons.
Yeah, very slowly, but they did have that one episode with the policewoman and stuff, and that at least went some ways to making her at the very least a bit more of a compelling character. But again, Ryan, Graham, and Dan, it's
Yeah, I don't see Dan having a satisfying ending either.
Not at all. Like, he'll probably just leave the TARDIS and hug Diane or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I
But-
think that would be it. Diane will be like, finally decide that she's ready to date, and then he'll go
Just
and
leave.
do that.
Yeah, which kind of like, again, like, as much as I enjoyed like John Bishop's performance and he's doing his best with the material, it's like kind of feels like a waste of a character in a lot of ways. You know, just kind of.
Yeah, it is what it is, though. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think whatever happens in these next 2 episodes, kind of really don't care. Because it's
No.
like, there'll always be eras and parts of Doctor Who history where you're just less fond of. Like,
Yeah.
for me, it's the end of the Tom Baker era and Sylvester McCoy's first season.
Yeah.
They're just kind of things that they exist, they're kind of there. But I won't really touch with a barge pole, really. Like,
Mm,
I'm not going to, like, cry myself to sleep that they exist. It's kind of like,
mm.
it's more just what's happening now and in the future. That's what I care about more.
Yeah. Cool.
And once it's done, I can be, slightly bummed out, disappointed, but I'm not going to hold on to anything or let alone be angry about it.
No.
It's just
no.
just a game, and you just kind of move on and
Yeah.
get on with it. And it's fine. We've had an era. They tried something different. There's some things I like in it.
Yes.
The directing, the cinematography is definitely, improved. Not that I'd say like people go back and call like the RTD ugly, and I'm like, actually, no, I disagree.
No,
Like,
and bearing in mind that most of those were filmed for 480p, and like CRTs and such.
Yeah.
Like, when you get the Blu-ray of Series 1 and have that blown up on a 1080p TV, yeah, some of it's gonna look bad, right? Like, I noted
But it
the flyover London on the Zeppelin during The Empty Child. Yeah, that looks very blurry and not great now when blown up on that screen. But you wouldn't have noticed that on the TVs of the day. Like, the production value and the CG itself was built in a way to fit the screens that people would be watching it at that period of time. So I think that's kind of a very unfair thing to say now.
I also feel like it was filmed like a soap, if that makes sense. It's filmed like a soap opera. Like, I avidly watch Corrie. I follow Coronation Street, just because I like characters and drama.
Yeah.
It's a good way to learn, especially from a writing perspective, characters and how to write
Yeah.
good characterizations. See how they're brought to life, and it's interesting. And it's filmed looking at the Russell T Davies era. It's filmed like a soap.
Yeah.
It's a Sin. It's filmed like a soap, but it feels real and grounded. Now, it's interesting when you film widescreen like this current era has, it feels less real.
Hmm.
It looks more beautiful, but I think it takes away. It becomes almost very polished to the point where it looks like not genuine. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It feels, this is cinematic. This is a piece of art. This has been created.
Yeah.
Rather than I am just with these characters in this moment. It's like if they put fucking black bars on Coronation Street, it would look weird.
Yeah.
You're kind of in these people's lives.
Yeah.
Is that something I'm interested on it? What Russell T Davies will do?
Yeah. We're not
You
going to
go back
change it.
to full screen. I do not think he'll keep the cinematic bars.
I can see that. Yeah.
Anything, I think all the things he's made, he's never done the cinematic bars, and it is because that is not drama
No.
to me. It becomes very. I think it can work in certain situations. I think it depends on what the story you're trying to tell. I think but for a show like Doctor Who, I feel like, Russell T Davies writes soaps. He's written for Corrie. I know that. He avidly follows Coronation Street as well. And I think, that's an important thing of understanding how he writes characters and what he's interested in. It's a Sin. If you haven't watched it, fantastic 5-part series, and you should definitely watch it. But it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure it's full screen. I'm pretty sure it's not filmed cinematically. Could be wrong, but to my memory, I'm pretty sure it uses the whole screen. Which is something like Doctor Who is also like, it's the argument that they have for like superhero films and why Justice League, Zack Snyder's one, not the shitty Whedon one, is in 4x3 because superheroes are tall, and you
Yeah.
want to, show their imposing power and so on. It's like, imagine the fires of Pompeii, right? And you add the black bars on it, and you've got the Doctor reaching out the TARDIS. You're going to chop off half of the TARDIS, or you're going to be so far out that you don't feel close enough to the Doctor's hand when you push in.
Yeah.
And like, the TARDIS is obviously a huge element of Doctor Who, but as soon as you add the black bars, either you're having to move too far out that it's kind of far away and not a big, imposing, powerful blue box. It's interesting. Is like just framing in general is a huge part of storytelling, and I'm wondering if like going cinematic has actually in some ways like hurt the drama in the series and how you frame it. Yes, it looks more beautiful in landscapes and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Hunger Games is a good example. The second one, Catching Fire, I think, and the whole movie starts with the bars, but as she goes up in the lift to the battle arena, the black bars moved and they get rid of them, so it's full screen because action and adventure shouldn't be trapped. And I feel like that's maybe my money will be on it. They get rid of the bars. I'll be very surprised if they don't.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting how successful it is. Maybe it is just down to script writing, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they'll keep the high quality cameras, but they're not gonna have the black bars. I think they'll go back to full screen.
I can see that.
I think it looks good. I think I still think there's lots of beautiful, and Russell T Davies is going to have a modern technology. He didn't have good graphics back then.
They used the best of what they had, right?
Exactly.
I mean, granted, the budget in the Russell T Davies era did, progressively increase, once they knew the series was a hit. But they used what they did, And also, I was going to say that, like, not everything in there, I wouldn't say doesn't hold up. Like, you look at something like End of the World and, like, the outer spaceship shots, and those still look pretty, for what it's worth, pretty solid.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I think he will do a brand new era to try and get like kids back into it. I think he's do very much like a Rose situation.
We'll get. I can see a soft reboot happening. I mean, we already did just kind of get a soft reboot at the beginning of the Jodie era, but I can see.
We had one series 3 of the bloody Capaldi era.
Kinda, yeah.
Soft reboot.
And I mean, that felt less like a soft reboot, though. To be fair, that
you could start the series there, and it would work. I feel.
Yeah, although still got elements like Missy and such. Which, and John Sim, which carried on, which you would have needed a degree of prior knowledge.
He just kind of shows up, right?
Yeah, but to really understand it, like it sort of did, but it sort of didn't. Like the Jodie era was like a clean slate.
Yeah.
And I can see them more or less, and I can kind of see them doing that again.
It was a clean slate until the series.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah. Until it decided to take the watches and everything.
Series 11 was a clean slate.
Yes. Yeah. But I think we'll get started from a companion's perspective. I think we'll go back to kind of traditional RTD. Start with a companion. I'll be very surprised if they start with. Oh, maybe he'll do different. I mean, it's up to him. Like, it'll be down to where he wants to take it. But I'll be interested. I really want to actually buy The Writer's Tale and read it now. It's been on my radar. I think I'll get the Kindle version and start having a read, because I'll be really interested in what it was like making series, and maybe it'll give an indication where it
seriously unhealthy was the impression I get from how that was going.
He wrote Midnight on a weekend. Like, isn't that insane? One of the best fucking ones of all time. Like, this is when I'm so ready for more. Like, he's had like a decade now of not being part of a show. That's like a decade of stories, decade of experiences and ideas, and like he would have. No, like Russell T just gives me the idea that he's always just coming up with Doctor Who stories. Like even he left the show, you'd have been like, oh, that's a good idea.
Well, he was. I mean, he did do like a couple of Target novels,
Yeah.
and then he also wasn't he going to write like a short like Eighth Doctor's Regeneration before he knew about Day of the Doctor?
Yes, he did write one. You can actually read it as
Yeah.
well, and it's very good. It's very interesting. But I'm actually happier with what we got.
Oh yeah.
Like, which is weird. I prefer the Moffat over RTD, but yeah, I'm just can't wait. King is back. 60th anniversary. I definitely think will just be a multi-Doctor story. I think it will be David Tennant.
Probably. I mean, it depends on. We'll see how it goes. I don't really have any expectations.
I don't think you can start a new Doctor's era, especially Russell T. I think what this will be more is the specials will be a lap of glory, and then new era starts after that.
Yeah.
I think this will be very disconnected to anything. I think it will just be a big multi-Doctor story using both classic elements, new elements, just whatever he's done probably for the 50th.
It'd be interesting is that I don't necessarily see Jodie being in the 50th, which would be kind of weird given that the latest Doctor...
Being in the 50th, it would be weird, but being in the 60th...
Yeah, not going to be the 60th, yeah. Let's say 50th. Yeah.
You said 50.
Okay. Well, 60th, yeah. That Jodie's probably not going to be in the 60th, which is kind of weird in a way.
Well, depends how they do it, because they do the story and it ends with like the regeneration into the new Doctor, and they have the new regeneration there. Like whatever maybe lines up, you could line up a story so that whatever happens then in this next Doctor's era is sort of like been set up in the 60th. Whatever like the repercussions are from that come to haunt this next Doctor, and then you have Jodie's regeneration bang there,
Could well.
Something like that,
Could do.
She's kind of there, but it's almost like she's not really part of the adventure. It's just her small segment.
Possibly. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could go. Like I said, I don't have any idea, really, because we know nothing beyond, like, murmurings and rumours, and even that's, like, none of that's confirmed.
They haven't told us anything.
Literally nothing. We just know that Russell T Davies is writing something.
It's so bloody far away, though. Like, but time goes quickly. We'll be there in no time. But, like, I kind of want to be there, but also I don't, because that would be 2 years of my life gone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Bloody hell. Time going too quick. But yeah, I'm guessing April, then October for this year. And then a whole another year of waiting for more Doctor Who. Like, I'm just so tired. It's just constantly waiting for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It used to be 9 months, Conrad. It used to be 9 months.
Yeah.
Well, even less than that. It used to be like 7 months, Christmas special, 3 months series. Like, I really hope we go back to regular. I don't mind if we just get 8 episodes a year. That was a rumor, by the way, that drops at one point. It's going to be like 8 episodes. But I wouldn't mind 8 episodes, Christmas special, and then that is consistent for like years, right?
Yeah.
Like, first, the Doctor Who that they were making was unhealthy. Like, it wasn't.
It's true. It's true.
So, like, the amount of injuries they had on set and so on. So I feel like at least I'd still hope for 10 and a series special.
Yeah, I think, it's...
I think Russell T Davies is an insane writer and producer, and I feel like with Bad Wolf being in control of it, it's a bit different. I mean, how many episodes was his Dark Materials? I think that was 10, wasn't it? Because I feel like, obviously, they produced that. I think they produced that back-to-back years. Yeah, November 3rd, 2019.
Yeah,
then
I could see it being 10. I'd be a little bit worried if it was less.
8 episodes, and then they did 7 episodes, but they produced it back-to-back.
Okay.
However, they have quite big stars in that series. So, scheduling and amount of time, or maybe just the amount of plot. But honestly, like, at this point, I just want more regular. I don't mind if it's less of, just more regular. Because, I mean, like, we got 6 after a year and a half.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a year and a half for 6. A year for 8 Heck yeah, I'd happily have a regular schedule. I just want a regular schedule again. I'm so tired of it being.
Yeah, if we can get it yearly, then sure. I mean, that was, again, was a big problem with Chibnalls, is that we kind of seemingly half the time got them like every other year, and we had less episodes. So it was like.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just, yeah, regular will just be so much nicer knowing that, okay, next winter we got it. But we don't even know when we're getting it when it's weeks away. Like,
Yeah.
bloody hell. And I just missed, like, the series trailer after the Christmas special for the upcoming.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, we're done. That's it. Falling time. That's our opinions on Flux and the specials of the future.
Alongside a lot of other stuff. Yeah.
At this point, well done. You probably haven't, so that's it. There we go. Comment below what your thoughts are. I'm sorry for the joke, Chris. It was it was set up perfectly by Conrad. But right, okay. We'll catch you next time. I hope we'll do a classic review between now and whenever.
Got the DVDs looking at me right now.
So we'll catch you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.